Alright guys, welcome to the Mythic banner predictions, not legendary banner predictions for the new year, January 2019. So, yeah, if you're not totally familiar with some of the channel updates that have happened recently, well, the video is two videos back. Make sure you go check that out. Basically, there's not going to be as much editing going into these videos going forward, so I've made some adjustments here on the Twitch side of things to make them just nicer, easier for you guys to follow. There's not going to be a fancy parchment anymore, and there's not going to be an intro and outro video for now, but I'll be adding that into the videos on YouTube going forward. The most impactful thing to take away from this is the information that you guys can take from it. That'll be in the unit analysis, HM farm videos and such. Thank you so much for supporting the YouTube channel, and of course Twitch if you drop by there. Twitch friends, you can feel free to tell the guys on YouTube hello, and feel free to leave a comment if you're on YouTube for the guys on Twitch. They definitely do check these videos out as well, so as always. And on Discord, if you have any specific questions, go reach me out there. Alright, so let's jump into the Mythic banner predictions. I'm going to assume, just for the sake of consistency, that a Mythic banner is no different from a Legendary banner, besides the fact that a Mythic banner releases a brand new Mythic hero. Okay, that's my only assumption. We might get baited, and there may actually be something new about these Mythic banners, but until it comes out, I cannot say for certain, so I'm just going to treat it like a Mythic banner, like a Legendary banner, of course. You'll notice right away that we have some confirmed Legendary heroes coming back, so that's going to be Erica on the side. Don't worry too much about that. What's more important is that I try to explain to you guys, maybe if you're new to these predictions, what I do to determine what happens. Our accuracy is usually pretty good. I usually have about an 80% or so accuracy hitting these Legendary and Mythic banner predictions, so you can fairly count on them happening. I do get some whiffs here and there, and honestly it might happen, but yeah. Anyways, let's follow the rules and see what's going to happen. So, duplicates are fairly rare on these sort of things. If there's a duplicate, I consider it to be pretty much popular characters. So that's going to be Sigurd or Mkhaya, brave heroes of course, and Colorless just has such a small pool of 5-star exclusives, and that's why there's duplicates there. That pool is expanding though, so that may no longer be the case. As mentioned just now, 5-star exclusives are definitely a thing that happened through these Legendary Mythic banners. We have not seen, and I think for sure we'll never see any 4-stars or 3-star units show up on these sort of things. For those of you that look at the 5-star exclusives and were hoping that Mist would show up, I'm sorry, I don't think that'll ever happen, so I'm going to keep that rule there. And the only way I see her getting a position on these Legendary or Mythic banners would be if she got a preference weapon or just a total skill revamp or stat revamp, which, again, don't think is happening. So, no Mist. These banners now officially have more than 4 Legendary heroes and Mythic heroes in all of them, because they started doubling up on Legendary heroes and Mythic heroes sharing. So this is pretty cool. For example, this month will feature both Erica, Legendary Erica, and Legendary Ike sharing in red, which gives some pretty superb value if you're looking for just good fodder, in the case of Erica having attack speed solo, or Ike having like warding breath for instance, or merging them up and providing your team with plenty of good benefits through buffs or arena scoring. I don't think that most recent units show up on these banners, and I'm talking about units that were like the winter units that just happened. Like, I don't expect those or the New Year's units to show up on these Legendary or Mythic banners. It's too soon, but they do show up usually within 3 months or 2 months, I think is about the minimum, where you see them right away. Of course, this exception was made on the first Legendary banner just because they were so new at that point. They really wanted to bring in the highest quality stuff. They have decreased the amount of seasonals that we see. So that's the 3 seasonals rule. It used to be 4 seasonals every Mythic Legendary banner. Now it's pretty much confirmed that it's 3. And this is kind of to slow the pace of seasonals on a Mythic Legendary banner. I'm just going to call them Mythic banners going forward, so I don't just say that every time. Mythic banner. And they do that just so they can keep up with how they're released and not completely overextend. I'm curious to see how they're going to repeat the old seasonals, the 2017 seasonals, or even the 2018 seasonals. They're probably going to make them happen on like their reruns when the season is appropriate, but I have a feeling that they're going to do something with the really old ones like Spring Crom and Spring Camilla, definitely being a little bit outdated by today's standards. We haven't seen any double ups on seasonals. When I say this, I mean like the color sharing. So you don't have like 2 green seasonals and then like 1 red one, for instance. They pretty much have 1 of each color kind of going. So that's going to be following the rules here. And finally, they don't really double up on new heroes. There was an exception to this rule recently with, I believe it was Olivia and Sumia being on the same legendary banner. That's a rare occurrence, and I'm still going to hold strong on this rule that usually they don't overlap heroes from the same banner. So for instance, you won't likely see Adrift male Corrin and female Corrin on the same legendary banner. This is just a kind of like a hunch. It's just something that I don't see happening too often. There was kind of like Daedra and Ira on the first legendary banner, but though again, they're not really on the same banner anyways because the Ira fiasco. Anyways, so I don't plan to really go through a legendary hero or mythic hero prediction specifically. I don't feel like there is enough of like a pattern or grounds for me to just make a random prediction like this month is going to have like Mkhaya. Like I don't feel that there's enough of me to kind of say that. I feel some people might say, well, there's a Radiant Dawn banner, Akariss, so Mkhaya should be the mythic hero this month. And you might be right, but I don't think that's the case. So what I'm going to do here is just list out what I think are candidates for both legendary and mythic heroes. And that's really what I'm going to go on. We had Azura on the legendary hero candidates from last month, and she did get released. So just like that, these are my candidates for who I think will show up as legendary or mythic heroes. So Elwood, Seliph, Sigurd, Leaf, Xander, Corrin, Alm, Crom, Roy, right? Those units have not had a legendary variant yet, and I do think they are all potential candidates for it. Mythic heroes are here being Mkhaya and Celica, and the reason I put them as mythic candidates rather than legendary is just because they use tomes or magic, or they have powers or something like that, and that's why I put them there. They could honestly be legendary. There's nothing really that separates them. I just think it makes more sense maybe, especially someone like Mkhaya who could seem to be like a dark mythic hero. It just seems that affinity would fit her better, or maybe Seliph being like a light mythic hero or something like that. You could play a little bit more with the affinities and make them have more sense, but for the most part, this is how I'm kind of predicting them to be. And finally, we have our brand new original characters, the OCs from Fe, and that's Gustav and Hel. So we did have Hrid, basically, as a legendary hero. So I'm not going to dismiss the opportunity that either Hel or Gustav might end up being mythic or legendary heroes in the future. Especially someone like Hel just seems like a pretty good candidate for like a dark mythic hero, for instance. Just makes so much sense. But, you know, these are all just here, just kind of like my overall predictions on what I think the actual banners will revolve around. Okay, so let's jump into it. First, I want to talk about our considerations for who could be taking these slots in red, blue, green, and colorless. So we have our old guys. These ones are usually the characters you don't want to see on a legendary banner because they have outdated fodder or they're just low quality in general. Not all of them are terrible, but some of them are. And that's why you don't want to see them. Especially somebody like Lucina. I mean, no one really wants to find speed at this point. You can get mass marked through grails. So that's a good example of something you don't want to be seeing. But something to consider here is that they do tend to drop these older 5-star exclusives with maybe a brand new legendary or mythic hero, especially one that might be really hype. So take like Ryoma, for instance, a Fate's character, and then put like young Tiki there, who had pretty much had no fodder. And that's just a way to get people to pull on that particular red, waste a lot of orbs, not really get too much value out of it. I always recommend waiting for the rerun because you tend to get a lot more value out of a legendary hero that gets debuted that way. So yeah, don't be too hasty. Don't be overhyped by seeing like brand new heroes. It's usually not worth it, and on the reruns you get a lot more value. Even Legendary Azura seems like a good case of this. She debuts not too badly with Summer Cam and Fjorm, which was pretty good, but then she's going to come back with Legendary Lucina and potentially somebody like Halloween Niles. And that's ridiculous, like the amount of value you get out of that. So yeah, definitely, you know, don't override some of this hype. Okay, so most likely the candidates you will see going forward on the red slot would be these ones, which would be Hoshiden Mkhaya, Brave Celica. Flora has actually shown up now, so we can get rid of Flora. Legyarn, Owain, Halloween Myrrh, and Camilla. Adrift Camilla, of course. So yeah, those are pretty good stuff. Most of the new ones tend to be pretty good because they usually come with good fodder or good kits, or they're just really good units. But let's talk more specifically on what I think will show up in red this time. And honestly, we already know 2 of the 3 units. So yeah, that's going to be Erica, Ike, and the third one that I think will actually show up will be Mkhaya, as you can see here. So I was actually thinking, like, why would someone like Mkhaya show up here? But it just makes the most sense to me when I looked at the bunch of seasonal options that we had. There's one more pattern that I've noticed with the legendary banners previously, and it's that we've had kind of like a seasonal not showing up in a particular color every month, and there's always they've been changing colors. Essentially, last month we didn't have a seasonal. I believe it was in green. I don't think we had a seasonal in green last month. And then the month before, I don't think we had a seasonal in red. Or maybe it was with Tana from red. Maybe it was colorless. What I'm saying is I saw green, and then I saw maybe colorless not having a seasonal, and then I think the month before it was no red. No, so what I'm seeing here is I'm trying to pinpoint exactly where the seasonal won't be this month, and I feel like it's probably going to see, well, you'll find out later on, but for that being said, I feel like a seasonal should show up here in red, and that really just concluded that it should be Hoshiden Mkhaya for me quite easily. Now, if I'm to be wrong in red, I think the alternative candidate for this would be Brave Celica. And that's because we've seen Veronica and we've seen Brave Hector. So I think that they're going to continue showing these Brave CYL2 units, and I think like Celica could be a good candidate here in red. And the reason for it is likely Deathblow 4. If they tend to make this skill more available in the future, in maybe like the anniversary update, I really do feel like Celica may show up here if it's not Mkhaya. But Mkhaya is a very good unit, especially for Aether raids, both defense and offense teams. So yeah, Erica, Ike, and Mkhaya are already really good candidates here for pulling in red. I mean, you have yourself attack speed, solo, warding breath. They're both good units, by the way. And Mkhaya is just a really strong unit, countering a lot of the meta units. So, moving forward, we do know that Legendary Tiki is coming back. It's important to look at what sort of candidates could happen here, though, for the blue slot. And I'm not going to really look at the old stuff. I'm going to look mostly at the new stuff. So we have Ryoma, Quan, Ophelia, Cliff, Yogur, Adrift, Maelcorn, and Halloween Niles. I think it's a little bit too soon for both Adrift, Maelcorn, and Halloween Niles, but a lot of these other candidates do make a lot of sense to me. So for instance, after Tiki, I do think Ophelia and Quan should show up. Now, hear me out on this. As I mentioned earlier, when I looked at the seasonals from the previous banners, blue pretty much was always there in the previous 3. And I feel like blue is going to be skipped for a seasonal this time. So that really leaves both Ophelia and Quan to take up the next spots. But there's specifically a big reason why I think Ophelia and Quan are going to show up with Legendary Tiki. And the reason for it is because they carry those rally up skills or rally speed defense plus skills, and I feel like it's just about time that they start making them more available, whether that's through Tempest Trials or GHB units or a skill shop or something like that in an anniversary update, just to create more availability on them. And this would be a good time to just push them out through a legendary banner. People may want rally ups, may want rally speed defense pluses along with legendary Tiki, and getting some really good value out of blue as a result of this. But if they tend to just release them a couple of weeks after, literally like a week or two after, and say, here you go guys, spend some arena medals and get rally up attack plus, you'd feel like you probably didn't use your orbs too well. So therefore that would be a really good bait of them, at least from a business perspective, so they don't devalue these units and really push them out before they make such a substantial mechanical change. That's what I think. That's my hypothesis on it. And honestly, if it's not these two, then it could be something like Cliff instead, or even Yulger. But I'm kind of banking on this blue one being this. Moving forward, we do know that Lynn is coming back. And for green, I don't think these old ones are going to show up. Julia, Minerva, Sonia, and Raja would make green so bad to pull for. More importantly, though, this is what is most likely going to be seen here, which is Thunderhead Olin hasn't shown up yet. She seems to have been skipped. Maybe she'll go the way of Mist. We have Hoshida and Alincia, so that's our seasonal. Brave Ephraim hasn't shown up yet. Lewin, Surtur, and female Corrin. Adrift, female Corrin. So good news, guys. No. I don't predict that Thunderhead Olin is going to show up. I think Alincia and Ephraim are going to show up, okay? So if Celica doesn't show up, Brave Celica doesn't show up like I think, then I think Brave Ephraim will show up. If they choose to give us Brave Celica, there is a very good probability that we will see Thunderhead Olin, or possibly Lewin. But honestly, let's hope that it ends up being Brave Ephraim, sharing with Legendary Lyn, and Hoshida and Alincia. By the way, Hoshida and Alincia is pretty nutty for fodder, having that dragon effective dagger, which is really unique to her. And being a green dagger is still a unique type as well, along with being a dancer. So, you know, there's a lot of things going here. Special Fighter is still unique to Brave Ephraim, and it's one of the best things you can get fodder for. So green is shaping up to look really good as well, but I'm still really thinking that this will be the case so far. And honestly, it's impressive. Finally, my colorless predictions should be Lind and Loki. However, based on what I've predicted so far, I don't think... I feel like a mythic hero will be colorless again here, which feels a little bit odd to me, and it's probably the thing I'm least confident in. The reason I say this is maybe something like Brave Ephraim or Hoshida and Mkhaya end up getting skipped, and we might see a double up on a seasonal. Maybe, for instance, we see Ryoma show up in blue. We maybe see like Lind and Hoshida and Xander and colorless, and then like a brand new red mythic hero or something, or maybe a brand new blue or green. This is probably my least confident thing, and I feel it's because Air is already a mythic hero that's colorless. So what could happen here is, even though it makes the most sense to me to make a new colorless mythic hero because of all the other kind of predictions making like logical placements there, and I don't see a double up happening to make room for a mythic hero in a different color, it just feels like the new mythic hero should be colorless. But I'm so uncertain as to what it could be. Like, are we going to get like Olm with a bow and he's going to end up colorless or something? Like, I couldn't really say. And honestly, I don't feel like Olm would fit any of the stuff like Astra Anima or Dark. So this is probably my least confident thing. I don't really know where the mythic hero, what color it'll be, and what sort of unit type or movement type it'll be. It'll definitely surprise me. It's probably one of the candidates I did show up previously on my list. But I'd say Lind and Loki, especially Lind. I'm almost 100% sure Lind will show up here because she's the last remaining unit from the summer units before we jump into the Hoshidan units. So it makes the most sense there. As for Loki, If it's not Loki, then it's likely to be, of course, somebody like Hoshida and Xander. We actually already saw Veronica, so I'll get rid of her. But yeah, if not Loki, then somebody like Takumi could show up with close counter. I mean, both he hasn't had a rerun and all the other colorless have, so that's pretty much what I'm thinking here. But colorless is pretty set when it comes to Lind, and if not Loki, then I don't think it's too soon. I think it's too soon to see something like Mia or Makoto. With that being said, though, that pretty much sums up my Mythic banner predictions. I'll go through them quickly again and kind of give you my full-out summary on what I think would be good based on what I've predicted here. First up is Erica, Ike, and Mkhaya. Of course, with Mkhaya possibly being swapped out for Brave Celica, that's possible. Red will be really good if you're targeting fodder like attack speed solo, which is by far one of the best skills, I think, especially if you're using it on like AR defense. Ike has Warding Breath, which is still really good, and Mkhaya is a very good meta unit. So if you're playing competitively, Red seems to offer so much value there. Gale Force Legendary Erica is also really good. She just has a good stat spread for it. Blue, we have Tiki, Ophelia, and Quan. And honestly, with these three, I feel like it's the biggest bait of the banner. And if it ends up being like this, it really does smell like a system update will end up happening where both Ophelia and Quan get devalued a lot. So be very careful if we do actually end up seeing this. If I'm wrong, then that's good. Then I don't actually think something big will happen. But if I see rally pluses, 2 of them out of 3 on blue, it smells fishy. So be very careful there, even though it looks like really good value immediately, especially with Tiki being 180 BST and giving you really good score in Arena. Blue might end up being a skip if it ends up being Ophelia and Quan, just because, like I said, if something happens with the mechanical system update in the game that makes these more available, these skills, Tiki will have a lot of lost value here, and you may want to wait for her rerun. In green, I think it might actually be some of the best, even rivaling that which we saw with Hector. So that was Alencia, Ephraim, and Lynn. So Lynn is interesting due to how AR has functioned recently. Her skill set really, combined with something like Null Seed Disrupt, might end up being really good. She's kind of a unit that really favors getting stat stacked, works really well with Swift Mulligear, Laws of Sakai, and already has a decent res stat. She has an okay defense stat as well. So you pretty much can stat stack her like defense res, and she can be a really good unit there. The problem is that she's a win legendary hero, and when you don't have win season, and maybe you have lights, you're not getting super good value there. But what really should be mentioned here is definitely the fodder value that comes from Alencia's Dagger and Ephraim's Special Fighter. So if we end up seeing these, green will end up being really good just for those things alone. Finally, I don't know what to expect out of colorless. I don't think it'll be too good. I know Lynn, for instance, has Brazen Attack Res, which isn't, it's pretty bad. Starfish is decent, and if you were to pick up Lynn, it would definitely be for Starfish. But with Loki, that's a meta unit hands down, and there's so many matches I've won just by having Loki on my AR offense team. So if we see something like Loki, I do recommend, picking her up, because if you could, I mean, it might cost you 200 some orbs plus, Legendary Banner is really hard to snipe for. But because colorless is so lacking here, it feels like the Mythic hero probably will show up here. All that being said, it feels like on this particular banner, if you're trying to get your value, and if my predictions are correct, red and green should be the best. Blue should be a big bait with Tiki and Rally Pluses being there. And colorless is kind of like the mystery right now. So, yeah, please let me know what you guys think in the comments below as to maybe something I may have missed or what you're probably looking forward to. How are your orb savings going? Be very careful jumping into these legendary banners without a high amount of orbs, and be extra careful because the anniversary is coming where we could see some really big things, as I mentioned previously. This is probably going to be a really good legendary banner just so they can squeeze every single orb out of you before a big system update, and as a result of that, it's a very good chance for someone to skip. And I think I'm probably going to be skipping this one. Of course, March offers us Legendary Azura and Legendary Lucina coming back together, so that already seems really good. And you never know, Tiki might show up with Lucina in the future, or Azura, since she's also blue. So something like Ophelia and Quan may not seem that good in the long term when you think about it truly. Okay guys, so if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching, and thank you for supporting the channel. Love you all. Look forward to my impressions video for the new banner, of course, and my analysis. I'll continue doing those. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one. Peace!